Namo Manju Shri Ye, Nama Su Shri Ye, Nama Dhamma Shri So, Namo Manju Shri Ye, Nama Su Shri Ye, Nama Dhamma Shri So, Namo Manju Shri Ye, Nama Su Shri Ye, Nama Dhamma Shri So.
上觉觉到如今就拿了讲究报道当年叫上去，大概就业级别做南京做了，当年都把学上节去到自己就拿了讲究报道当年叫上去，大概就业级别做了，做了并且上京就把学上节去到自己就拿了讲究报道当年叫上去，大概就业级别做了。多老并且上京都包有啥些别些学习没做，他是让人群人的基本的上京行动没的，如果让到行老结包有也到我都来拿面找了个你要的呀。南京那些旅那那个去的那个头修当条上去，他讲的。东华进来新界的他，他去到个前地马那些个人情报下到妈妈一把几家没马些把他长期没吃完，真正是慢的呢。대화 대자 랑도 고로 지병 그 등엔 바시 녀원에 대가 끼지자 문도 전체지 만드나 대지 피스 소바다 체나 쩌마로 체바 주지 체바 다그샤오 대다 셰니 발라마라 신질로도 소스네 두스 샹바 공쇼아.
Please sit according to 7 meditative posture of Vairocana. All suffering sentient beings have been our mothers. They have been our mothers for numberless times. They are as kind as the mothers of this life. All kind mother sentient beings do want happiness and do not want suffering. Because of not knowing the object of abandonment and adoptions properly, they experience only suffering. In our minds, sincerely cultivate loving kindness towards all kind mother sentient beings. That how nice if all mother sentient beings had excellent happiness. May all kind mother sentient beings have excellent happiness. I will cause all kind mother sentient beings to have excellent happiness. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
어디就是东华进来新界的他，他就告诉就们这边错他到这呢。쩌마로 자와 지지 자와 다게 샤오 대다 셰니 발라마라 신질로도 소스네 또 닌지지 관이다.
Next we cultivate compassion. That how nice if 3 rows of all suffering mother sentient beings were free of all adversities. May 3 rows of all suffering mother sentient beings be free of all adversities. I will cause 3 rows of all suffering mother sentient beings to be free of all adversities. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
어디就是东华进来新界的他，就考的呢，是个东华的多应该是了，不过都是应该你让了不，你让了不就到底那个是让他把这边上去就恐怕能给你把的是了有什么让他把这边上去了有比，新界他就就是上去就恐怕能不就这人家他把小那边讲究去先讲去啊。
Next we cultivate Bodhichitta. First, we ask ourselves, who should take the responsibility to free suffering sentient beings from the sufferings of 3 lower realms and of whole samsara? I should take the responsibility to free all suffering mother sentient beings from the sufferings of 3 lower realms and of whole samsara. But I do not have the ability to place them in the state of complete perfect enlightenment. Only the perfectly completed enlightened Buddhas have the ability to do so. Therefore, for the sake of all sentient beings, by all means, I want to become Buddha. Next, we meditate on emptiness, that I do not exist intrinsically one, nor intrinsically different from the aggregates. Thus, I do not exist intrinsically. Set motivation. For the sake of all sentient beings, I want to become Buddha. For this purpose, I'm going to receive the holy teachings and practice accordingly in order to benefit sentient beings.
Oh yeah. That ring also the lori tama juduma sanukuro. That the juji datima didishwero.
Yeah, so today is the last class, and I'm going to finish the Loric text, the last part of it, expressive sounds.
That the chidon juji dati dima shwala so chicheta the nginishina tisingo sigwanda vujere. That the ya tambo chicheta the chibania tisin tango matis the tambo demando the chicheta tisi chumba ina mati tisinwa yiro.
So in fact, in order to cover these expressive sounds, we have to present the generality and particularity first. So we have to understand that concept. So however, if I were to talk about generality and particularity first, then in terms of, because of the time constraint, so I worry that we might not be able to finish it. The definitions of something's being an expressive sound is an object of hearing that causes the understanding of its own object of expression through the force of nomenclature.
Tendi drama taba shi jebal tene ta shi paro bo drama taba konwa tendi drama taba shi jiji drama matimba ta kanda paro bo kandijina drama taba resa tendi kanda kale khaborwa tendi drama taba jibi jiji ngatela tene te drama taba ko la tene te drama taba tendela te kanda jibachine te kanda nyani chia ta tenda na tu shirwa.
So regarding the definitions of expressive sound is an object of hearing that causes an understanding of its own object of expression. So for example, an expressive sound expressing sound is impermanent. Yeah, so an expressive sound expressing the sound is impermanent. So in dependence on this expressive sound, a person hears it and understand. A person hears it and understand. So after the person, the hearer is understand it, then he investigate it, and then he continue to practice on it. So if another person do not depends on this expressive sound, expressing sound is impermanent, it will be very difficult for another person to understand that sound is impermanent. And divisions of expressive sound, when these are divided by way of entity or nature, there are three. The first one is names, second one is phrases, and the third one is letters. So the definitions of something being a name is an object of hearing that causes understanding of its own meaning. And when a name is divided, there are two, actual names and designated names. So the definitions of the actual name of a certain object is that which is observed as the common locus of, being a term initially applied arbitrarily to that object, and being the main name of that object. So the definitions of the designated name of a certain object is that which is observed as a common locus of, being a term later applied to that object, and being a secondary name of that object. So an example of an actual name is speech calling the king of beasts a lion. So this is kind of common, yeah. So basically, when we talk about actual name, the actual name is its real name or its actual name. Sometimes you also like to give names to others, right? So those are not the actual names, and it's also not so good to give names to others. Yeah, so if you don't call the person by their actual name, and if you were to call them by some other names or just to tease them, etc., then people get angry. Yeah. So when designated so when designated names are divided, they are two. So so when designated names are divided, they are two: names designated by reason of similarity and names designated by reason of relationship. So an illustration of the first, a name designated by reason of similarity, is speech calling a Brahmin son who has a big mouth and pug nose a lion. So this is kind of normal. Yeah, when we give names to others, then we give we give a name that is similar to the person. Like for example, a person who has long hands, etc. Then we call the person monkey, for example.
다 님바들라로와 안데와 진세디 시바들라 간단디도와 대싱의 진세디 시비 담이다 아다 진디 진세디 시비 담이니도와.
So with respect to the second, names designated by reason of relationship, there are two. Names designated by reason of a causal relationship and names designated by reason of a relationship of nature.
다 담보들라 간다 안데와 진세디 시비 담이들라 지민제라 답이 답니다. 단 지민제라 답이 답아니 니레군도와.
So again, regarding the first one, a name designated by reason of a causal relationship, there are two divisions. Designated names in which the name of the cause is designated to the effect, and designated names in which the name of the effect is designated to the cause.
다 간다 지민제라 답아서 다 딜페샤군도 님이 에셀라 님마시지비 nga tabu sero diri lagudwa dowa da nimi esela nima hibi nima sewada nimi esede nima gi ndrebuchi nima de nimi esegi jochi jetela sanotani shigudwa da nimi esela nima hibi da jugi mi da ndrebul tawor kandarwa.
Yeah. So in illustrations of the first, a designated name in which the name of the cause is designated to the effect is speech calling sunlight sun. So sun is the cause and sunlight is the result. And then they are calling sunlight sun.
Oh, the Kandarwa. Takanda Najing also Pachiba in Nimi, Sela Nima, Shiji, Jimmy de la Tassan also. Naji Nima Parikan Legend Wundana Nimi Nimi Sicily Nima Shashu Laurangas Naji. Nimi is a Toma Leudi, what Nima Shashu Nima Shanu do say to Lash you are. That didn't have one of your Nimi Sela Nima Shijaban. The Tamicha Ratangada.
Yeah. So regarding this sunlight, then when we climb a mountain and then when the sunlight shines on you, then you say that, oh, the sun shines.
That the Mazing also Membaji Pihirwa, Membaji Pihila, may Pihin say to the Takanda Jumindela Tawat.
Mela Baji pushing de, may
Membaji Pihila, may Pihin Catulaja or to Chile.
Ini di kasa di di debu iming de rogi la. La. Mede debu rogi la.
May pihilo jaro, made debroa, pihi de megi joroa. Membaji pihila, the Kandarwa, Membaji pihitla, may pihin se cataloja udoa, or did that.
Yeah, so another example is like wood, that is a cause, and then it produce, it give rise to the result fire. Then they call the wood firewood.
That day jela kanda derindwa, ndrebu mi de jela tabas longda. Niban drebu mi jela tabas. That dunga yanda la jeba jibinga tabas. That de janda chansang ta and deshi jeguna tiskale kaborwa. Kanda dere, ndrebu mi de jela tare swade. Dunga yanda dela tene kanda jepa de jegure. Jepa de kugi in drebu chawur dunga yanda ke. Rwa dunga yanda ke drebu chawur. Tendi dunga yanda dela tene jepa de jegure. Jeba de Chiva Sunza, the Jeba de Tiggin Jebrede, then Jebu me the Gilataba, still over Duandala Jepa, Laudua, Duandala Jepa, Laudi, Tendi, Jebu meet that Gelataja. The Tami Chad, when we meet Marwa.
So an illustration of a second, a designated name in which the name of the effect is designated to the cause is speech calling a correct proof statement and inferential cognizer. So inferential cognizer is the result and it arises in or is produced in dependence on the correct proof statement. So because the speech calling a correct proof statement and inferential cognizer is the example of the second.
Anybody dachindi jinsi de shibi tamite dishaudwa. Kanda reyu katsa chipala reyu tsisi da dinga sun hanji logurwa. 그 레위베 초지 친구들나 레친구들 세고와 간다. 그러와 컴바 스위치라 멤버들나 컴바 멤버들도 세고와. 된다 보나 오지로.
An illustration of the second, a name designated by reason of a relationship of nature, is speech calling the burnt fringe of a piece of cloth, burnt cloth. So if just one corner of a piece of cloth is burned, then we call that piece of cloth a burnt cloth, right? So similarly to a house, a part of the house caught fire, then we say, oh, the house is on fire.
오 딘디시다데 지당아 두스 디디지레다 미세 딘디르 렌도와
데올라 that's all.
데올마 디기 렌도와 데 시드렌도와 아 시드 간다 치기 치치 자니 팀비 네자디 치기 치니셀라고요.
So the second is phrases. With respect to the second of the threefold divisions of expressive sounds, the definitions of phrase is an object of hearing that indicates meaning by joining substratum and attribute.
아 세시자오데 제만 디지나마 따바하세 로와 디지나마 따발다 디지나미다바세 간다 다 된다들에 봉바 미다바세 봉바 미다바 자미다바 제제오데 간다 치기도 치자는 제는 오로와 로와 dai metaba sene dai de chi de dai metaba de wa 이 metaba de wa wa da de kanda chi chi ro chi de na ro.
So an illustrations of a phase is, alas, products are impermanent, subject to productions and disintegration. Other example for phrases is pot is impermanent, sound is impermanent. So sound is the substratum, and the pot is a substratum as well, and they are being impermanent. So being impermanent is the attribute.
Dire sombatele kanda dire jarwa 이게 답아 뒤뒤지마 사체 마토마지 지다 고다 좀 차도 말아줘서 미친이 이제 종이 집에 깨진다도 이게 있으니 생신의 가서 손지 답을세 다도 제가 배이게 장요 말아 다고 이제 마토마지 jarwa.
Yeah, so letters. Third one. So with respect to the third of the threefold divisions of expressive sounds, the definitions of a letter is a vocalization that is a basis of forming the two names and phrases.
다들 간다 리지지 다트 말레 우리 가서 들었다 소지지 다다 리지지 다스 니레고 다로와 다 간다 가서 다들라 리지지 다다 소지지 다시 다 눈에시나 리지지 다다 소지지 다디 시발라 가서 리지다 된 소지세와디 시에차는데 답대보 차사로와 리지다 소지 가서 찌나노 디로와 다 드링 가서 찌기 참아 찌디야 도와트레 여바이나 디세 만도바이나 담봉 가서 소지다 리지니 좀 맞지 라와치로와 다 리지지다 소지지다 세와다 가서 리지다 소지니데 신바이나 디 답대보 차사로와 때 맞지 쉬어지로와
대절라 리지당 소지디 꼴라 소인 바이죠.
리지다 소지 디디지 마 쉬어요.
So when expressive sounds are terminologically divided, they are two. First one, sounds that express types, and sounds that express collections. So in order to understand these as sounds that express types and sounds that express collections, then if we know about type generality and collection generality, then it will be easier for us to understand what does sounds that express types and collections means. So later I'm going to explain a little bit briefly about what type generality and collection generality is. That's all. Yeah, so when generality is divided in terms of terminology, there are three: type generality, collection generality, and meaning generality.
pena kawata rangi sawala Jason Doata rangi richila Jason Doani turned our richida chini tenda chipari esna 다 친지들와 친지들 가와데 다 리지스와다 가와다블라 제스로 랑기 스타와라 제스로 와스나 가와데 다베 스타와스나 제랄 고고로와 담보 디지라도.
Yeah. So the definitions of type generality is a phenomenon which is concomitant with those having its type. So these are the definitions of type generality, a phenomenon which is concomitant with those having its type. Example, pillar. So that which is concomitant with its manifestations and that which is concomitant with those having its type mean the same. So its manifestations also means its particulars. So that which is concomitant with its particulars or manifestations and that which is concomitant with those having its type mean the same. Thus, type generality and generality are synonymous.
다 리치스와다 가서 난지다 찌다 제다스 러데 조데 리치드다 리치다 찌니 된다 지버로와 데 담보 세나게 바지 가서 제다스 러사 이시자나 보다 찌세와다 리치다 찌니 된다 지버레.
So regarding this type generality is the one we always talk about, generality and particular. So we always talk about generality and particular. So this generality is the type generality because type generality and generality are synonymous. So this type generality is the generality that we always talk about.
다되게 된다 맞 제일 질레고로와 다데 니바데 랑기 차시 드만 디비 수라바데 솔직히 지니스로와 랑기 차시 드만 디비 수라바데 솔직히 지니요 솔직다 수라바데 된다 지바.
And the definitions of collection generality is a coarse form which is an aggregation of its many parts. For example, pot. And collection generality and coarse form are synonymous.
앞에는 bom바다버디니 랑기 차시 다 차시로와 다 쳐다 야요와 또도와 다 사드메드 추도 그래서 소발이 두 대바지로와 등리선자 다 bom바디 소치를 해서 그러나로와.
And the example is a pot. And pot is a collection generality because it is a collection established from the aggregations of its many parts, such as spout, base, belly, subtle particles like the water particles, fire particles, earth particle, etc.
아디질라 된주기 생다듬 가시 마음부시다 지다로와 맞아 힘따불란세나 힘지 또발라 힘많이 긴데 힘따불 나와대 나이 차대 간다 신기 된주를 해서와 신기 딱 가시 것만 가서 분비 된주는 마음부시다로와 분지 또발 많이 발라와 나와대 분비 된주를 해서 가시 마음부시다 된다 지바로와.
So the definitions of meaning generality. So we have, as I said, we have talked about it already. So regarding the meaning generality of pot, for example. So the definitions of meaning generality, a basis, wood, for example. So the appearance as a wood, despite its not being a wood, to the conceptual consciousness apprehending wood. And this is the definitions of meaning generality of wood.
맞은 데부터 일하셔야 차다. 니 얘는도 시다 장기 되는지 그바 일하셔야 차. 다들 가서 가서 시자로와 간다 안데부터서 간다로와 라페 라니 소소베 에디치 치솔레 되나 다 소소베 컴바 데사서 가니메 이 랑사 에 센라 샤트 로와 된다부터 신 넘바 샤고로와.
된지기네 나와로 이라.
된지기네 나와대.
So the example for the meaning generality is the aspect of an object of the past that appears to mind. So an object of the past that appears to mind. And the second example is when you are not at home, then the home arrangement, your home arrangement that appears to your mind. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, so while so when you're not at home, and then your home arrangement that appears to your mind, that is also a meaning generality as well. So it appears through meaning generality. So the definitions of particularity is a phenomenon that has the type which engages it as a pervader. The example is water.
Right? That chula kanda ngibi chabana ngibu chaji de chu chaja yibi ngibu de churangi region da churani ngibu region res roa ngibu de churangi ri roa ngibu de churangi ri da churani ngibu region res.
So water is necessarily a thing. Another way of saying this is water is pervaded by thing. So thus, thing is the pervader. Water is the that which is pervaded. So we talk about the pervader and the object that is pervaded. So is that which is pervaded. So water is necessarily a thing. Thing is the pervader. Water is that which is pervaded. So thing is the type of water. Thing is the type of water, and water is the phenomenon having the type that is a thing. So the type is the type is thing, and water is the phenomena having the type that is thing.
我到等到这刚才我说去到我部里的机器的查过来，但接着是话呢，查一下查清完的，这是话的查清完的是吧？但去的我比接着的是的，但去的搞完药了，我部的大家药他，对了查的是吧？去的搞完药吧，我部的大家药他去的了，去药星期了，我部药他看的。哦，这是啥？但我部的去了查一是老个就是的了哇。
So why do we say that thing is the pervader and water is that which is pervaded? Is because the thing has a greater pervasion, and water has lesser pervasion or smaller pervasions. So what it means is water is a particular of thing. Thing, when we say thing, is the functional thing, the functioning thing or functional thing. So water is a particular of thing. So whenever the water exists, thing exists. So that's why we say the thing is the pervader and water is that which is pervaded.
Oh, that ko debu ilawa yanja jilaba ina. Ngaso michige mila trashis lava ina roa. Trashis lava ina. That be kamba chambo na kamba chambo ji nalo. Trashi kamba di nalo ndo song se lava ina. Kabi trashi kamba di nalo ndo se lava ina roa. Trashi mi de kamba di nalo ndo lava ina. Ta kamba di nalo mi ndo lagu roa ta. Mi ndo trashi yo shinchela mi de chabdir ta kanda. Mi de chaje da trashi chaja roa. Dahi chaja, dahi migi cheda roa, dahi migi cheda, mide dahi jire jichade roa. Da kamba dinala, dahi jibun roba ina, dahi jibun roba, kamba dinala miji ndu se, da mide rangshiji yosa chapsa da kanda, dahi yoishinjela.
Mide kabjire.
Mide chaji roa. Dahi yosa kawa ina mide daga yor da kanda misiwat, mide jimi roa.
So another example, then for sure you all will understand. So a person called Tashi. So Tashi is in the house. So when we Tashi is in the house, then we say, oh, there is a person in the house. There is someone in the house. So Tashi is that which is pervaded, and someone or a person is the pervader, because pervader. A person is the general or the generality, is the pervader, and Tashi is a particular of the generality, a person. So when we say there is someone in the house or there is a person in the house, then whenever the Tashi is, there exists a human. So you can see, so the human is the pervader or the greater pervasions, or the greater pervasions, and or the generality, and Tashi is the particular, is that which is pervaded. So when Tashi exists, then a human exists. So you can see the pervasions, yeah.
Andu ngaso pe ko debo chi shewa ina roa, pe ko debo china ngaso jase medo de medo ki chedare, jase medo de medo ki chedare. Ta kanda michila pe jase medo ni jebo china, kola medo ni jebo shundu lagura, medo udu lagura so laguroa. Wata jase medo yo shinjela awa medo ni jebo chi yoba ta, jase medo ni jebo yo sadi medo ni jebo chi yoba. Ta tela chap de kana medo jasi medo la chap de ro jasi medo yoshin chela medo yorwa ata medo de chirewa chaji ro jasi medo chaja ro jasi medo chachua medo de chachewa ro o medo de chachewa sunda da jasi medo yoshin chela o ta medo dusi la ro
Another example is like rose. Rose is a particular of flowers, right? Rose is a particular of flowers. Flowers is the pervader. It has a greater pervasions, and then is the generality. And a rose is a particular of flowers, and rose has a lesser or smaller pervasions, and it is a particular or that which is pervaded. So when a person saw a rose, a beautiful rose flowers, and then the person says, "Oh, the flower is very beautiful." So when the rose flowers exist, flowers exist.
adi wol manga zo jeda de da song zidang ma ji xi ge ro chi de jeda de ro la chi chi song sang go re ro chi chi song de da chi chi song de nga zo de ma be xiao de xi ji ge jeda xi jia de ji la dang bo ni si ro ga wa de jeda la me ni si ro da ga wa de xi jia ge jeda yi na da chi chi song sang go chi chi song sang go ro ga wa de xi jia ge jeda yi na chi chi song sang go re ga ren sang go ga wa xi jia yi kawa hijada dachi donde te kawa mai bi hijaya in bi hinting ba yore eso roa da deso de chansana da kanda te cheda ngone tane cheda de global deso changwa da kanda.
So there are three attributes that must be present for something to be a particular of generality. So a particular of object of knowledge. So if we were to identify pillar, for example, so pillar is a particular of object of knowledge. So in order for pillar to be a particular of object of knowledge, then it must fulfill or the three attributes must be present. So the first attribute is a pillar is an object of knowledge. A pillar is intrinsically related to object of knowledge. And third one, there exists many things that share a common locus between being an object of knowledge, but not a pillar.
Ta tambo nga kawa hija yin se kawa hija da dachi don je sa te kawa hija da ran hi chi re kawa hija da dani chi re se ta dachi ne se tanda de ko de bo ji lo ne kawa hija da ran hi chi re
건다 대 니바데래.
니바데 kawa hija yin ba ta de 하고 그러와 kawa hija yin ba da 하고 그러와 다 tambo de wa chi tambo de kawa hija yin ba da 하고 ba ta kawa hija da dachi don je sa de te kawa hija da dachi don je se tanda de kanda kawa hija da dani chi re kawa hija dani chire kawa hija taderes roa kawa hija taderes da tenda dus chila jan digore kanda hija mena kawa megbi junsin roa hija mena kawa meg junse ota kanda hija da chinde so da hija da ranhi chire hija dani chire se dilona dis ko dego jire
다시 주제사 되는 데가와 시자당 단위도 단위지 지려와 있어.
단위지다 hija ranhi chire o dilojana dis ko dego
Yeah, so between being an object of knowledge and not being a pillar. So here, not being a pillar. Yeah, so regarding the second attribute, a pillar is intrinsically related to object of knowledge. So what it means is pillar and object of knowledge, they have the same nature. They are of one nature. So that is what it means by a pillar is intrinsically related to object of knowledge. Yeah, so regarding this generality and particular, so it has four possibilities. The first one is that which is a generality but not a particular. 공다기 슬라이드 단다 무시디 콜라 숨이요나. 라소 공다 양게 송로나. Yeah, so example for the first possibility is object of knowledge. So the second possibility is that which is a particular but not a generality. The two, pot and pillar. So the two, pot and pillar, it is a particular, is not a generality. And the third possibility is that which is both a generality and particular. Example is pot. So pot is a generality and it is also a particular. So for example, pot is a particular of object of knowledge or functioning thing. And pot itself is also a generality because pot is the generality of a golden pot. And the last possibility is that which is neither a generality nor particular. For example, rabbit's horn. Yeah, so that was the brief explanations about the generality and particular. So indeed, we already covered type generality and collection generality. So when we come back to Logic text, when expressive sounds are terminologically divided, there are two: sounds that express types and sounds that express collections. So types is related to the type generality that we were talking about, and collections is related to the collection generality. So the example for collection generality that we said just now was a pot, and sounds that express types. The example is object of knowledge. Even the pot can be an example for the type generality as well. So with respect to the difference between sounds that express types and sounds that express collections, there are four possibilities. This first one, something that is sound expressing a type, but not a sound expressing collection. They So regarding the first possibility, something that is a sound expressing a type but not a sound expressing collections. So if we understand just now regarding the type generality, then we understand then we understand here as well. So the type generality that the example that we mentioned just now is object of knowledge, right? So object of knowledge is the type generality. Object of knowledge is type generality. So sounds expressing a type, and then, for example, the sound that expresses object of knowledge is a sound that expressing a type, but it's not a sound expressing a collection. So the object of knowledge, just now we say, is type generality, right? So sounds that express object of knowledge is sound expressing a type.
소지지다이나 시자데 소지이구로와 소지이나 수라빠이구로와 시자데 수라빠 시자 따바로와 시자데 수라빠랑 몇 번디지 이구로와 오 디지네 다 시자지지다데 소지지다 말이스 이마이 비즈가 시자데 소지 말이스 고간다.
And this sound that expresses object of knowledge is a sound expressing a type, but it's not a sound expressing a collection. Is because just now we say the type generality, object of knowledge is the type generality, and this object of knowledge is not a collection generality, because the example that we mentioned just now, collection generality has to be a cause form. Its definition, it says that it's a cause form, right? So object of knowledge is not a collection generality because object of knowledge is not a cause form. And cause form has to be a compounded phenomena, and object of knowledge is permanent. So because of this, object of knowledge is not a collection generality because object of knowledge is not a cause form. So, and the second possibility is something that is a sound expressing a collection, but not a sound expressing a type.
Oh, that Muniba Sojida Rigida Maimede, that Kabuni Shijibida, Kabuni Shijibida, that the Sojida Rigida Mares, that Sojida images the Kabuni Suraparwa, Manso Kundishara, Sinitela, Sojitela Kanda, Surapaji Gurios, Sinil Shitaimba. Oh, this one's a Narangi Cheshitama. Surapa Kanda ko di chado sonza masuta yi soji ki tsini di shayimba soji ki tsini ro rangi chagi tama di surapa da layimba o di sonza da kabuni da kanda surapa sonza soji kabuni ki jibda soji di dare yes.
So the second possibility, a sound expressing a collection but not a sound expressing a type, exists because the sound expressing the two, pillar and pot, is a sound that expresses a collection, but not a sound that expresses a type. So just now, we regarding the collection, in the context of collection generality, then the definitions stated was a cause form, which is an aggregation of its many parts, right? So it is a collections generality has to be a cause form. So the two, pillar and pot, they are cause form. Therefore, the sound expressing the two, pillar and pot, is a sound that expresses a collection, but is not a sound that expresses a type.
다들 가분이 소지지다리 리지지다 말해서로와 다 가분이 기집에다 리지지다 말해서로와 가분이 기집에다 리지지다 말해 대 많이 준세까지나 가분이 리지 말해서 리지 말해서 리지는 찌이고라 찌이고라 가분이 찌 말해서 찌 많이 준세도 가분이나 제라요 말해서
그런데 리지데 가서 리지기다 말해 리지기다 말해 많이 비준세데
많이 준세데 리지 많이 비준세데서 리지 말해서 가분이 리지 말와 가분이 리지 있으나 가분이 기집이다데 리지다 인구로와 가분이 기집이다데 리지다 말에 리지다 많이 비준세까지나 가분이 리지 말에서 리지 많이 비준세데 가분이 찌코로 말에서 리지다 찌 던지로와
가분이데 던지 가서 가분이데 찌 말에
찌 말에서 가분이 찌 많이 비준세까지나 가분이나 제라요 말에서 가분이나 제라 그 찌있으나 콜라 제라지 요 그래서 거로와 가분이나 제라 요 말에서 그래 싸원이네 요 말지
Yeah, and this sound expressing the two, pot and pillar, is not the sound expressing sorry, it is not a sound that expresses a type because it is not the two, pillar and pot, is not a type generality. So just now we talk about the type generality and the collection generality, right? So the two, pillar and pot, is not a type generality. So the reason they are not a type generality is because the two, pillar and pot, is not a generality. So in order to be a generality, that it must have a particular, then in order to be called a generality, right? So the two, pillar and pot, has no particular. Therefore, the two, pillar and pot, is not a type generality.
아니 이제 미숨바 들어와. 다 미숨바데 간다. 미숨바데 들어와. 다 리지지다 소지다 니가 이미 들어와. 다 리지지다 소지다 니가 이미 미데. 다 니가 이미 미데. 가르스나 bomba히지비다데. bomba히지비다데 리지지다레 소지지다레 니가 레세고로와. 아무데 제시도 제르마시 들어와.
That's all. And the third possibility is both a sound that expresses a collection and a sound that expresses a type. And this exists because the sound expressing pot is both of those.
다 bomba히지비다데 소지지다레 이비 전세가스나 bom바데 소지를 해서고로와. 소지. bom바데 소지선자 bom바히지비다데 단데 소지지다세 다시 시용바로와. bom바데 소지를 bom바 소지 이비 전세데 수라바 랑기 책이 도만님 수라바로와 bom바코로 수라바로와 랑기 책이 도만님 수라바선자 그 소지를 소지선자 bom바히지비다데 소지지다레 해서고로데.
And why do we say that a sound expressing pot is both of these? So sound expressing pot is a sound that expresses a collection generality because pot is the collection generality. So because the pot is a collection generality, and this pot is a cause form. So because of this pot is a collection generality, so the sound expressing pot is a sound that expresses a collection.
다 bomba히지비다데 리지지다레스라고로와. 단니가 이베면 자로와. 다 bomba히지비다데 리지지다 이비 전세가스나 bom바데 리지로와. bom바데 리지레. 리지 이비 전세가스나 bom바데 지레. 제수 지다 리지는 던지로와. 다 bom바데 지레 지 이비 전세가스나 콜라 제라지 인도와. bom바 코랑게 제라 가스나 세지 bom바. 뭐지 bom바데 bom비 제라로와. 비치다선자 다 코라 bom바 코랑 리지 인바 손상 다 bom바히지비다데 리지지다레스라고로.
And sound expressing pot is also a sound that expresses a type because pot is a type generality. So pot is a type generality because pot is a generality. So just now we said type generality and generality, they are synonymous here. So pot is a type generality because pot is a generality. So they are synonymous. And pot is a generality because pot has particulars. For example, a golden pot. So because of the pot is a type generality, therefore sound expressing pot is a sound that expresses a type.
다 미시바들다. 다 리지지다 소지다 니가 많이 믿들어와. 다 리지지다 소지다 니가 많이 믿을 가르스나. 다 당연히 히지비다데 해서고. 당연히 히지비다데 리지지다 말레스. 리지지다 많이 믿을 가르스나 당연히 리지 말와. 당연히 리지 말에. 리지이나 당연히라 제라지 요거래. 코ጭ이거라 당연히 ጭ이거래. 들어와. ጭ이거래. 제라 제라지.
그래서 당연히 리지 말이 가이스나?
리지 많이 믿을 코ጭ이 말이.
지 말에.
지 말에 리지 말에서고다. 리지 말에 지 말에 지 많이 이제 가르스나 ጭ이나 콜라 제라지 요거로와. 어떻게 당연히 제라 요 말에서고로와. 당연히 제라 요 말에. 다 당연히 제라 메웠습니다. 다 당연히 지 말에 지 많이 봤습니다. 다 당연히 집에 다데 다 리지다 말에서라고.
And fourth possibility is something that is neither a sound that expresses a collection nor a sound that expresses a type. And this fourth possibility exists because the sound that expresses the two, permanent phenomenon and thing, is neither of those two. So the two, permanent phenomenon and thing, they are not a type generality. It is not a sound that expresses a type expresses a type is because the two, permanent phenomenon and thing, is not a type generality. And it is not a type generality because it is not a generality. The two, permanent phenomenon and thing, is not a generality. And it is not a generality is because if it is a generality, it must have the particulars. And since the two, permanent phenomenon and thing, do not have particulars, therefore the two, permanent phenomenon and thing, is not a type generality. And that resulted in sound that expresses the two, permanent phenomenon and thing, is not a sound that expresses a type.
다 간다 당연히 돼 간다 리지지 당연히 기비다 리지지다 많이 진짜 대시 사바지로와 다 당연히 기비다 소지지다 말이야 당연히 기비다 소지지다 말이야 대 소지지다 많이 진짜 가서 당연히 소지 말와 당연히 당이 소지 말이라서 소지 말에 소지 많이 진짜 가서 소지들라 랑게 차히 도만 술 아빠지 그러와 랑게 차히 도만 술 아빠지 그래 당연히 술 아빠 말와 술 아빠 말와 술 아빠 많이 왔습니다 다 당연히 기비다 소지지다 말이야 소지지다 많이 진세대 당연히 소지 말이었어. 소지 많이 진세대 수라바 말이었어. 대순자 대 당연히 기브다데 소지지다 말이었어. 다딜라고.
And the sound that expresses the two, permanent phenomenon and thing, is not a sound that expresses a collection as well. And it is not a sound that expresses a collection is because the two, permanent phenomenon and thing, is not a collection generality. So it is not just a collection generality because the two, permanent phenomenon and thing, is not a cause form that which is an aggregation of its many parts.
다다 이처럼 가서 대 지지라 단다 미시대 상로 야부 당이나 지지다 거 야부 치는 단다 다소 지야야 가서 지지 송대 지지 송대 단다딜라 리고리 미시들라 다 미시대 상로 야부 당이나 지지다 다른 거 치사래서와 거 치는 그래서
Yeah, so think about the three qualities that we mentioned just now in order for something to be a particulars of a generality. So think about the three qualities. Then from these, it comes there are four possibilities derived from these three qualities or three signs. So then if you understand the four possibilities, then you understand what generality and particular means.
디 대가 샤이다 내시 망보 메마도 다 좋아 디지어서와 다 좋아이는 참 말이야 다 제만 가서 헤엄미티네 제슬레 저로와데 지체다가 단데시 지다 디지 제바치나 거다도 쳐대 보여데
Yeah, so I will stop here. Regarding the generality and particulars, if we had time, then if we were to go through this generality and particular in an extensive manner, then you would definitely understand better. This we can do in the future. So I will stop here, and then we can go to question and answer sessions. And yeah, so so now is question and answer sessions. So I've received a few questions. So let me, I received few questions. So
알레 다 지지다 유진이라고 가서 유진들라 유진이 된다다 가르치나 랑이 찌르데 덴비 응어보데 유진이 진이서와 랑기요 랑기요 지지지 다데페나 유진이 비지데 페나 봉바 히지비 다데 지자 요도 가르치나 봉바 샤고로와 지지 다데 다 메타바 히지비 다데기 요데 다 메타바로와 랑기
다데 유진이와
다 메타와 다데 유진이레스 유진이 비지데 가르치나 코랑기요 유요레스 유요비 지서 가자 다 마타바 히지비 주지 다 되기 요데 다 메다바 봉바 히지비 다 되기 요데 봉바데레스 예순자 가서 유진이 된다데 랑기 유 요면 따고레스 간다 로아 코나게 셰바이나 셰바 코나게 유 연진하게 요데 간사이나 간사 코나게 통하게 요데 로아 당 가서 유진들라 로다 cancer just there's the using you said the rang usually the dimming was go rang dimming with the rang using you change the sini la song down what is there.
Yeah, so I summarize the questions. Yeah. So the first question is it might not shows the full questions or not. It might not shows the full questions, but the questions is about expressive sound cannot be an object processor. If is without awareness, then expressive sound cannot be an object processor. So from my understanding, without an awareness to understand, then by itself, by expressive sound itself, sound cannot possess the object of hearing. Therefore, expressive sound cannot be an object processor without awareness. So this is the first question, and the answer is expressive sound is an object processor, because the definitions of object processor is that which possesses its respective objects. That which possesses its respective object. For example, impermanent a sound expressing impermanent. So impermanent is the object, and the sound that expressing the sound is the object possessor. Yeah. So a sound expressing impermanent, a sound expressing pot. So pot, impermanent, is the object, and the sound, the expressive sound, is the object possessor. Since this expressive sound possess its object, therefore expressive sound is to be called an object possessor. So this is the first question. And the second question is about so regarding the small path of reasoning, medium path of reasoning, great path of reasoning, then there is a tarik also. Tarik is the sign and reasoning, and lorik is the awareness and knowers, and duda. So duda is the collected topics. So what is the ideal progressions of this text to study this text in order to have a clearer idea of the whole topic? That this is the second question. Rilam chiding chungsum tarik lorik duda de pangrim de jangi pangrim de kandiji inas.
Pangri tambo de ngaso rila chunga de ngaso kado kama ki tanda de leurwa tambo rila chunga de ja de jese rila riwati de jese rila chiwati de jese lori de jese tarishi oda de ngade yabu jamba ina tangone tani shitsala oda zo jires de ngade wa
duda de yabu shingirwa
duda de yabu shingirwa
di chasang de duda ro injila
Reta ngaso chida dida se ngaso dira rila chunga riwa chembo snerwa chembo so tetri onzi lori data de la lori da tari ni sam nimpe jawrwa
so duda de rilam de chiding chungsum injila
o chini chungsum.
Yeah, so regarding small, medium, great path of reasoning, tarik and lorik, the sequence to study these texts is first we study the small path of reasoning, then we study the middling path of reasoning, and then we study the great path of reasoning. Fourth, we study awareness and knower. Then fifth, we study tarik, which is the sign and reasoning. So small, medium, and the great path of reasoning, they are collected topics. They are a part of collected topics. So if you study small, medium, great path of reasoning, followed by awareness and knowers and science and reasoning, then you will understand. In addition, you study lorik and tarik, then you will understand the collected topics very well. This is the second.
Can I just elaborate on that? Not elaborate, but can I add on to this question that was asked? Shouldn't tarik comes before lorik? Because, as Geshe-la was going through lorik, there was a lot of part that Geshe-la could not explain because we did not have tarik. We have not studied tarik, Geshe-la had said that. So shouldn't tarik comes before lorik?
So Geshe-la ini di tarik na di lorik ngoy la di 그래서 로리 그래서 다리나 데 로리 인거라 데 장고 말이 있으라 카인스나 데 기슬라기 로리 데 그래서 데 디시가베가 라이닝 초디 다리 데 마장와이나 데 로리 데 디시가라 데 깔리 카보도아
근데 로리는 따한다 요로아 따고를 쉐우데 다리 데 장고럼 다리 마잖아 따한다 근도다 싫어 시고 말와 어디 지당 가서 나지 바르지 쩨우데 가서 담보 로리 있잖아 로자고와 로리 젠데 다리 쩨는 거래
그래서 근데 그래서 로리 나로라 데 따얀다다 디 꼴라 데 레기요나 니 다리 데
근데
마셔와
그다 와 다리 된다데 로그래 마도 디디 찬스 시게 두고 말와 로리는 디디 마디오 말아 따얀다데 디디 마디오 말와 다리는 다 제발레고와
yeah so so regarding Loric, then in Loric, then when it comes to the part that is related to the correct sign or the correct reasoning, then we have to understand about the Tariq. However, other than that, other than the part that is related to the correct proof, then we can understand Loric. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So next questions is so tana dinga gete kaza di gulu tang de wo se di kola di shena di ro gi la
kola tuat karen chi law shi da
la so so di sangi gi ko bang di thoa la thoa gi di nye gyu de kaza sugo gi nyeleng gi gyu de gyu re en chugu gi nyeleng gi gyu de wo series de data yunas
re da nga so chugu toya gi ju de sere da wan re kanda da nyum ji de sugu toji ju de nyele de kanda da juli da ga re da nga so patel de shi tin sabo ka pa jena da nga so da nyum se se wa di le ayo re da so shoma ga ba ji da khona lo ya de ga re sko ro kanda juli de ya ngo ndo ya de sugu ngo ndo go re nyele ji de kanda se de da yi shi de ro doni do bi shi de wo da de kanda chugu ngo ndo go re nyele
그래서 we say that 그래서 동이 또 비시되래
이시래 간다디 이시래
귤리데
데 줄리데 나데 당아서 될 페샤 샤키 시오르만서
알레
마 계시셔래 누마 이지비 이시디 데 셔자 지비 룽데 간다 타두야 마수 수궁 온도 거래 다 이시 코나 뉴시 코나 간다 추궁 온도 요로와
그래서 애니디 안 두두디 숨긴 게 있어 시기 수기
Hello.
Yeah, so the next questions is about so I just cut the question short, yeah. So since it is related to Tantra a little bit. So is the is illusory body the substantial cause of form body, and is clear light the substantial cause of the truth body, or for achieving the truth body, for achieving the form body? So yes, illusory body, or in other words, is the wind. Wind is the substantial cause for achieving the form body, and the exalted wisdom, or the mind, is the substantial cause for achieving the truth body. So this is the question. The question. The third questions. Yeah, since it's related to Tantra, so I will not further explain it. 상계기 고방 그래서 상계기 고방 데 토백이 데 현지 칭에 데 가리리사 에니디아 그래서 상계기 고바 야나데 상계기 군다데 좀바체나 또와이나 에니디아 상 개와치마 미데 상계 제약이 바자데 샤그레스 에니 딘디나 상계기 고바 야나 군다데 좀바체아데 상계기 고방 토백이 현지 칭에 데 지기 요나스
대단히 말다. 군다마 또야데 산지지 공판 지역이 렌치 제제 가완도 산지지 군다마 또야데 망예송의 지역이 렌치 제제레스고 산지지 군다마 또야데 주대 간다 망예송의 마지역이 줄 렌치 제제 제고레마 산지지 공파 제 지야다 또야 텐데기 렌치 바샤 상부 자원이네 요 말이스 바샤 상부 자원이네 샤요 말이스로 대목에 망해 손을 지야기 고 현지 시제의 주치고요레스 다 디 상지 건다마 또비깔라 상지 현적으로 와 또비깔라 상지 현제바 상제다 제발라 상지 자야기 데 바샤지 샤고레스 데게제 시고로 와 현제바 상지 다 건다데 파또 메바 소위디 그렇게 상지 현지 진제고로 안 진제는 또고로 와 어디 또로디 데 현제바 상지 간다 가서 상지라 대바메 컨트롤 랑시가 상지 제바 있는 신람 주고를 세고로 와
가서 상게라 대밤메
대바메바 컨트롤 랑비토네 상지라 마가와 컨트롤 랑비토네 데 상지 현제바 있는 수소를 신람 주고를 세고로 어때데 신에데 다마 군다 또 나만데 제우디 군다 또지의 요지 또 참마데 간다 내손나 마치야기 조 현지 시제 지고르면 상지지 현지야라 바샤 상보 자원이네 샤요 말이스로와 자원이네요 말이스 어디 다고 바샤 상보지까지 여기 와서 땅바이나 상지 마또이컬라 현제바데 상지 현지 실업 될라티네 다 먹어봐나 상진자야 바샤지 샤우요레스
Yeah. So the second part of these questions is regarding the cooperative conditions of for achieving Buddhahood. So there is a example given here is destroying representations of Buddha, for example, the Buddha image or the Buddha's statues. Destroying it is said to give karmic imprints for the person to meet Buddha in future life. So at the same time, the person accumulate great misdeeds in doing so as well. So can these destroying representations of Buddha image consider as cooperative conditions for one to achieve Buddhahood? So destroying the image of Buddha is not a cooperative conditions for someone to achieve Buddhahood, and it is a cooperative conditions for someone to reborn in lower realms. So so it is not a cooperative conditions for the person who destroyed to have the karma to meet this action itself will not enable the person to meet Buddha in the future lives. So don't mention that it will leave a good imprint as well. So we are saying that destroying the Buddha's image will not give karmic imprints, will not enable the person to meet Buddha in the future, and it is not a cooperative conditions for the same person to achieve the state of Buddha. So, however, when the person destroying the Buddha's image, the person sees the Buddha's form, right? Sees the Buddha image, right? So this seeing the Buddha's image or the Buddha's statue leaves a good imprint in the person for the person to meet Buddha in the future. So and there is a common the common explanations about this. So if a person do not have any faith in the Buddhas and who do not like Buddhas as well, and even out of anger look at Buddha, so this itself will the person will receive the blessings of seeing the Buddha's image. Yeah, so it's similar, related to this one or similar to this one. So then next questions. So next the because nebi de or seshi gola. Seshi gola de because the kambe seda, jebe seda, sembe seda, namashi sede. And the jebe seda, sembe seda. Namashi sede and this tishikaruna de senshi de sharuna. And the questions is about the cause of abiding, then the 4 foods that sustain the body. So the 4 foods are cause body, or the foods of elements, and the second one is food of touch, and the third one is food of mental thoughts, and the last one is food of consciousness. So ask Ishala to give some explanations and example.
tanda se shibo tila chita nga so nge ne tsigi se de rang ki che shibo yo mari nga so kala sa gi se de nga so kanji se se wa de nga so ta kala sa gi se de wa kanji se se wa de kanji se se wa de ta nga so libo te wang bo tse ya ji bi che do ta kanji se de kanda di ka so se se wa de sipa so wa shibi tanda re sipa so wa shibi de yi bi chane kanda se se mi ta wo yo se wa
sipa so wa chebe
or Sipa Soa Shibi, Jinsinji Chane, the Kanda Seke, the Yumi Tower.
Oh, Jugin de Oro.
What Jujin about?
Sibala Soa Chibi Oro.
Soa Shibi, Jujin or Taka Jujin. Injitine.
So regarding these 4 food, there's 4 foods. These 4 foods is not as it when we talk about food that we usually eat. Yes, 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 it is related to the coarse food or the food of elements. So, and however, the rest of the food is not really the food that we usually eat. Like for example, the food of touch, etc. So it's not really related to the food that we usually talk about. So what does it mean by food? Here is that the cause and conditions that sustain the body. The cause and conditions that sustain the body in cyclic existence. So because of that, because of its being the cause and conditions that sustain the body in samsara, therefore they are being called food.
Kanji says what in answer, they want to lead the Jiva Chedo, that Kanji said that the Nanji on that Roa. Nanji says that they are on a Kanji says what they want to Jiva Chedoa.
So regarding the first one, coarse food or the foods of elements is the food that that grows the body, foods for the growth of body.
Kanda repi says what in answer, Chedan, Dodoshina, Temba Nanshi Jibit and the rest of Temba Nanshi, so Temba Nanshi de Jibit and the Reta Kanda repi Selatine, that's what they were doing.
Temba Namshi?
Temba Nanshi and Peg and the Temba Nanshi Saint Seju, this is Tamaya Jiba Chechit. Repi City.
Jiba Cheto.
Or Jiba Chechit, yes.
And the food of touch is for the growth. Yeah, it's for the growth of consciousness, like for example, the mind and mental factors.
Da kanda repi se tela tine nganzo kanda ditanda shigore soa dewa dunga tanyo se mamboji legu yorwa tela tine. Indin tu yore oda tendishi kanda repi se se wadi temba nangshi jibi tenda reyesi tenda dishi dodon rabat.
Jibi se la tine ni de soa de tu tangyum de legi lo.
O tsi legu wa.
Yeah. So in relation to independence on food of touch, then the feeling, happy feelings, the painful feelings, and the indifferent feeling arise.
The simbi se se wadi nganzo sipa shima penji le na botre simbi se se wadi.
Sipa
shima what sipa tsendene tse shima le sipa la penji le na bochi. Le kanda le la na digre. Penji le. Or Pinjile, Sipa Shimala man Pinjilete.
And food of mental thoughts is the actions that projects a future rebirth.
Nanshi says what the answer Sipa Shim and Roa Sipa Shimala Kanda, Sipa Shima Yin Drupa Shenshido, Yin Drubi Chedres, Nanshi says what the answer Sipa Chini Ma Jumbala. Jimbala ngaba nanshi de danda ngazo che ngama ni ndo wonde ni shimando ma nanshi rimba chine jino ro jiwa o
kondraidi siba chiwa
sipa shima yin rubi danda sipa shima ta kanda ma sembi letige sipa shima ma phingu ro phinji chigo ro sembi letige sipa shima ma phimba shigore nanshi ji setige Sipa Shima Yin Drupa Shiba, but that Sipa Shima Kawa Sanjana, Nashi de Pa Sanjan Kinda Takanda.
Yanga de Tamatama de Siba Chiwa, Chima?
Sipa Yin Drupa Shinge, Nashi says what Sipa Yin Drupa Shinge.
Sipa Shen Drupa Chingen.
Drupa Shinge.
Number she said it.
Oh, Nashi said it.
Siba Shen said any Chiwa Ramaro.
Sipa Hesana Tangazo say and then Shima Sanja Shima Shimaliate Nash Sipa Genda Gendalapa Dua Ritu Kasayina Pen Sanjan Rajiro Nashide.
Because Siba de Shen de Druba Ching any Siba Shen said de
Sipa Hesa the Nazo Dua Ritual Shachura Kasakala Shahiro.
So
Nyawa Yeda Tendo La Milama it is a Mambol Yoroa. By Yin Druba Shingage.
So, and food of consciousness is that which accomplish other cyclic others existences, for example, lifetimes in any of these 6 realms.
And that's the issue the so kanji said that representing it chendela sipa so chigres so chendela
kanji said
that representing chendegi sipa so chigres roa sembi said that nahi sini sipa shimala
konda de cedila de so chigiro
chendela sipa so chigres kanji said that representing
cedila so chigiro
representing chendela sipa so chendela sipa so chigres kanji said representing that sembi said that nahi de senigi se shimala sipa so chigres so
So the first 2 types of food, coarse food and food of touch, are mainly sustain the existence in this life, and food of mental thoughts and food of consciousness are mainly sustain the existence in future lives. That's so. Yeah. So next questions is Ale. 第几万个的这个是啦，像可是累可是累热吧，当痛啊，当米吧，浊吧，的可是血吧，筋吧，血吧，多吧，的过来你这样痛嘛，你的硬嘞的机器的样拖赢啊。
The Trinity Maris, no matter Tomada Riba, Hiba, the Zul Tomin, the Kesha Yo Maris Zulua, the Zulan Toa, the Mawas, the Keshaki Yo Maris, the Ni. So, Toada, Jedi, Manso, Eugene Corompe, Yude, Toby Rimba, one the Shebaina. Or Toby, or Eugene dig by Yude, Eugene dig Yude, Toby one the Shina. Tambo pe metaba na bojina tambo metaba ngusun do mato bache tambo metaba ngusun do mato ba metaba to bache roa metaba to ne ngusun do mato bache roa de jesu metaba ngusun do to widi de ya lo dia tisni ba chen ro sara ngusun to di roa ta metaba ngusun to de ni ba che ta metaba ngusun to ba ma che tabina metaba ngusun to men tashi bi he metaba ngusun to men tar chimba ta chimba dende yi ji je widi 어떤 토시라고 들으다 토시 당가서 유지라 파자네 뜻도 또 당시 로기야 니치야 토르로야지 시야르마도 저당가서 통바다 리바다 시바서 저기 저랑가서 토하다 마와서 기체 시야요 말스케 요 말스트라
그래서 리바 된 조로
어찌다 리바다 통하다 시바서 저랑 토미 기체케요 말행가서 다이 시바나시 간다 다 유지라 파자네 때 이때바 림바게 로이야 토네 로테 콤페디안 로이 So the compare Tommy get a sugar
Yeah, so the next question is that which is known by awareness, seen by awareness, observed, established, determined, apprehend, cognize, or realized by an awareness. So are these words shown a level of graduation between the objects that just appear to the awareness to the so basically are these words so that which is known, seen, observed, established, determined, apprehend, cognize, or realized by an awareness shows a level of graduation. So it doesn't show the level of graduations. Like for example, that which is known by awareness is lower than that which is seen by awareness, and that which is seen by awareness is lower than that which is observed by an awareness, for example. So it doesn't show the level of graduations, the later one higher than the previous one. So and when we talk about in terms of the awareness, the strength of awareness is higher than before. Like for example, then we link it to a basis. For example, impermanence. So an awareness realizing impermanence. So this awareness realizing impermanence is not a direct realizing. It is not a directly realizing awareness. So it first started as an awareness realizing impermanence, and then continue to meditate on it. Then an awareness directly realizing impermanence. So in terms of the strength of awareness, then yes, the later one is higher than the previous one. And then there is even a higher awareness than an awareness directly realizing an impermanence, which is an exalted wisdom, a complete exalted, a perfected exalted wisdom that directly realizing impermanence. So this is even higher than an awareness directly realizing awareness. So in this case, when you link it to a basis, for example, impermanence, then awareness realizing it, awareness directly realizing it, and perfect exalted wisdom directly realizing impermanence. In this order, yes, it shows that the later one is higher level than the previous one in terms of the strength of strength of the awareness. Yeah, so this is so next question. Did Chiwa Tama regishla? So yeah, there is another definitions as compared to yeah, anything juyu ina tomela tome gishebala juyu zinangi yu de tonjire any tetang toba gi xianyu toba gi xianyu de yeah any okonda nang yu tang sung yu le juyu tome gi juyu tang toba gi xianyu dinga le to yores 대신 당보디 얘기잖아. 근데 있나?
다 그래 나이도 신주 토메 그러세.
낭유당 송유래 주유 도메기 주유당 도바기 신유. 도바기 신유. 야, 도바기 신유 대토 요레스. 주유당 신유 대토 요레스. 낭유당 송유대 마 요레스 근데 있나? 네 가장 또배 차네. 또배 차네.
마스 이렇게 요 말했어.
유된조로.
얘들서 그 도당 거는 토하다 마스는 이렇게 시작해 요 말했더라.
유이나 야나 디 유도당기 차네.
안다들 나이 수요 유유서 설은 토하다 마스는 이렇게 시작해 이렇게 저 다니게 고만요로.
그래서
나이도 수요도 간단 토하다 마스는 디 파지 다니 들리게 요즘 말했지 분들아.
그래서 so yeah, so the first part of these questions is, does it mean that object of engagement, which is synonymous with object of mode of apprehension for non-conceptual thought and object of determination for conceptual thought, has the higher grade of being realized by the consciousness as compared to appearing object and apprehended object? So then Geshe-la said that there is no such saying that one object is higher than another objects. Yeah, so like for example, the appearing object and compared to appearing object and apprehended object, the object of engagement for non-conceptual thought and object of determination for conceptual thought is they are higher than appearing object and apprehended object. So there is no such saying, or I never heard of it. Geshe-la said, and they 시자요라 하기실라. 시자기 체인 체인신다지 요래서 근데 로이 또바차와. 엔디디야 체인된데 요래서 엔디디 시자이나 유시가 저 딩외라 소인바 기실라기 소인바 엔디디 낭유 송유 주유다 진당기유 엔디디 시자 디 유시나로라 강라 디두기요나스.
다 샤자 세워다 지당 가서 진단지 요래 로안난 진단지 요래 주요래 샤자 고로 샤자다 진단지 주요 참아 된다 지발 지당 지셔네 지당 가서 진단지 요 주요 세딩 가서 예진 셰바질라 파자니 셰고요래 예진 셰바가 로되게 요라만 주당네 요란 주당게 계셔셔네 또요 주요 단 진단지 요 셰요스 계셔 셰고요라 지당 샤자 세워다 가서 지당게 세미게 또바샤와 샤자 지당 가서 재미게 또바 샤와 이미 차네 샤자스키 제시고요와
대체니로
재미 또바 샤와 이미 차네 샤자스키 제시고래 내가서 지당 진다지 요이나 샤자 인고래 로와 샤자 인한 진다지 요 인고래
어, 샤자 진단기 유이나 데 샤자 지단기 차네 샤와이나 진단기 유이나
차네 이거래. 아주 지단 샤자된 진단지 유인 비 진세 가서는 로인 진단지 유레스 샤자서도 로인 진단지 유레스 그 중국 샤자의 또비 세마 유레스 간다 된다 디시는 리고요레 지단 가서 샤자당 로데 지단 체미게 또바 샤이 최진 비차네 샤자지 계제 시고래 진단지 유유 세워서 로데 가서 유진의 유럽판 주비깔라 다 유진의 유럽판 주비깔라 때 유대 유진되게 진단지 유유 나요 소유즈 계제 시고요. 어디서 계제 시고를 가서 지단 유유 진단지 나요 신유세 로도와 등아서 유진 유럽만 주비 차네 대간다 유진들라 다간다 유진되게 유유 유진되게 진단지요 유진되게 나요 도스 계제 시고요. 맞아. 샤자세와의 찌기 차네 세미 또바샤와 샤자의 진인세 찌기 차네 시고를 가서
요메기 계자다 보러.
요메기자 제자 여바 샤자 주두 요 최에서 담아 지단 찌기 차네 시고로 와.
가자 샤자 시도 요 디신다 최
담아 된다 지바로 와. 그래서 찌기 차네 가 시고로.
So the second part of the questions is there is another definitions for object of comprehension, which is defined as object which is realized by the awareness. So where does this object of comprehension be arranged among the object, like appearing object, apprehended object, object of engagement, and object of the mode of apprehension? So when we talk about object of comprehension, when we talk about object of comprehension, the definitions of it is that which is realized by valid cognizers. So we proceeded the definitions for object of comprehensions. So in general, when something is an object of comprehension, is necessarily an object of the mode of apprehensions, is necessarily an object of engagement. And in general, an object of the mode of apprehensions and is necessarily an object of comprehensions as well. And why do we say that object of comprehensions is an object of the mode of apprehensions is because because object of comprehensions is an object of the mode of apprehensions of an awareness. Like for example, that which is because there is a valid cognizers realize it. So therefore, an object of comprehension is also an object of the mode of apprehensions as well. So when we talk about object of comprehensions, it is about existence or non-existent. Something exists or something is not existent. Therefore, we talk about the synonyms of object of comprehensions, established base and existence phenomena. Then they are object and they are synonymous with object of comprehensions. So in particular, when we talk about object of appearing object, apprehended object, object of engagement, and object of mode of apprehensions, so it talks about how an object possessor engage their objects. It talks about how an object possessor engages their object. Then such terms like, for example, the appearing object, apprehended objects exist. So then we say that this is the appearing object of an object possessor, and this is the apprehended object of an object possessor, and this is the object of engagement and object of the mode of apprehension of an object possessor.
Lo tanti jin zinda ji yodan juyu ina shaja yingure es kanda.
Konda lo tanti
jin zinda ji yodan juyu ina shaja yingure es.
Zinda ji yode.
Zinda ji yodan shaja ina zinda ji yodan juyu ina.
Juyu ina.
Shaja yingure es. Oh, lo tanti jin zinda ji yodan juyu kandi jina da shaja yingure es. Da lo tamen tige zinda ji yodan juyu ina da shaja yingumare es.
인고 말해와 말해 말.
아레스 라우잔 디고다.
so 말해와 이제. 인고래 제 그래서 인고래 네데 니바데 말해라.
마레스 라우잔 디고다.
So yeah, so anything is the object of the mode of apprehensions and object of engagement of a factually concordant awareness is necessarily an object of comprehension. I repeat, anything is an object of mode of apprehension and object of engagement of a factually concordant or for a factually concordant awareness is necessarily an object of comprehension. And anything is an object of the mode of apprehension and object of engagement for a factually discordant awareness. So the second part is factually discordant awareness. So anything is object of the mode of apprehension and object of engagement for a factually discordant awareness is not an object of comprehension.
等到过去前你几小时啊，刚才写下个内多把小前面多把小，就当我说前年了，去了满到忙不离个的是，等到了上当过的是吧？等到了上当过的，我说开始写下个前年的前面多把小的写下个前年是老了哇，内多把小进度是老什么？那的等到多的前面多把小老了的是个，刚才你去的是地震到嘛的，等的前年忙不离个的是吧？ mambo legre so tanda da kare de sang tang gores tanda do do lan semi topa sha lo gore shaja se wat lan semi ke topa sha lo topa sha wa chi gore es gore da shaja yin shin che la khanda semi ke topa sha yin ju gore lo topa sha wa yin ju gore es gore
shaja yin shin che la de semi topa sha wa
da shaja yin na lo topi cha gore lo topi ka je da lo di ya ta je ba yin na then non-check to chagres learn degree sanji papi ji lo to chagres learn degree
konda any sheja ina de sema gi de to ba chawa ingoro wa
semi gi to ba chawa re lo gi to ba chawa re a lo gi to ba chawa yin bi jun se gar se ba ta ti ta chen no sa de de sha ja yin shin je la sanji gi lo ma to ba ji yo ma re ska
sanji gi lo ma to ba ji yo ma
papi ji lo ma to ba ji yo ma re so de ro jen degree
sheja yin ba
下家一星期了，可多比些落的上级方面就落这个马多把机要嘛，下家一星期了，落多把下次了讲这个这是看到了吧
？Yeah. So, and in these questions, another definitions is posited for object of comprehension, and the definitions is object which is realized by an awareness. So, in terms of the words is a little bit different from the definitions we previously talked about. So the definitions we previously talked about was object which is realized by a valid cognizer. So this is the definitions that we talked about. And here there is another definitions, object which is realized by an awareness. So so when we comes to definitions, so if you refer to different sources, then the wordings are a little bit different. However, we have to think about what does it mean, the meaning of those definitions, even though the wordings are different, we have to think about the meaning. So, and the important meaning or the essential meanings from these definitions, even the object which is realized by an awareness, the essential meanings that we have to understand is that object which is realized by a valid cognizers. That is the essential meanings that we have to understand, even when we come across such definitions as object which is realized by an awareness. So whatever, as long as it's so so whatever is an object of comprehension, is the object which realized by a valid cognizer, and whatever is a object of comprehension is the object realized by an awareness. So why do we say that whatever is an object of comprehension is an object realized by an awareness? Because there is no object of comprehension is not realized by a Buddha's awareness. Yeah, so why do we say that whatever is an object of comprehension is object realized by an awareness? Because there is no object of comprehension is not realized by the Buddha's awareness.
야, 다 대화 샤기 다 드리로와. 아데 샤기 디 간다 디 칼로르다 ngaso loring 진짜데 지차르와. 내가 골마 땡디지도 마 담보 진짜이로와. 내가 지차바이는 골마 땡디지도 주지로와.
So I will stop here, and then this is how say we finish Loric text, and then for auspiciousness, I'm going to recite the beginning part of this text.
lama dangumun jambe yana chance lo ndin semi gundin jibe didin na jeri na tuji demile relam chiwa yuije da loring na wani na je shepa las ya tujina da de ngaso lori de tuze sabache da kanda sama kewa sambore ro mi kanga de kanda loring go zune ma saji pada sama ge lojen chiage goga tuzi chumbare da goga sama de ngaso pensi chudo jimpi chido gotone da range zai lama koranso kadila tine tenga zu tsama ki tusu da lori ni pe ngoni jupa chansa pe lojo che goga shumba de da kuncho kadini sa su so re cha re ngoye ni cha de ko ro oda tindi pe kewa sambo shibu ji chuyo ro.
Yeah, so we finish Loric text, finish Loric subject, and we should remind ourselves how fortunate we are that we have the opportunity to study from the beginning of this text to the end of this text. So, and we all serve as a conditions to help each other to accomplish this. So we should consider, and this is also a kindness of three jewels as well. So we should remind ourselves how fortunate we are.
아드니 순장안서 배 숑르마 다 간다 찬고레 다 참마게 깨와 삼보 다 문티니로와 다 문티니 다 로슈마랑안서 신주 센센주 동고 주고로와 다 센센주 동고 주디 다 텔레야지 참마 문티니 야지 아부 용고레 다 문티니 참마게 만서 공시가레이나 다 안가치다 공신도도 요레 엔도비칼라테 찬스 참마 장 찬주도 소디 양자 문티니 디스디세야 로정 chia be yabu shuyo ro de nga so misi ji jang changjo de yangja ji jang de de misi gi kwa chile ya nan ra khro yo mar ro.
Yeah. Yeah, so we will, as we study along, then we will cover more and more subjects. So I encourage all of you to continue to study. So the next subjects following this is mind and mental factors. So if we continue to study it, then definitely we will see the improvement. And then my holidays is about to start. Also, I will leave. I will go for holidays as well. So while I'm away, then all of you, so you have to review, or you have to do revisions of what we have already covered, the subjects and the parts that we have already studied. Then it's good to review and then to do revisions as well. Because if you do so, then you will develop a new understanding about the subjects that we have studied before.
That's how much you have an origin copy That's how much lojo pekuta pada yabu shibuji nagu dus. Kanda tume naro shi sengi rumbuchil dus shia is ro. Kanda danganso kichi da lama tuje boji chumbaina. Lama tuje boji chumbaina ta shati da sosena saya da sanjiji kumpa toyala. Oda delil haze de kake yomar ngazurwa. Kake yomare. Disonsa de sama kanda huta pada dus nambare lojo yabu chungsurwa. That's
so. Yeah, so you all please study well while I'm away. So I will go back to Kopan, and I will inform Rinpoche what we have studied, and I will tell Rinpoche, I will inform Rinpoche as well that you all study very hard, and then please dedicate Rinpoche, please dedicate your prayers to us. So I will inform Rinpoche and then request Rinpoche for prayers as well, for prayers. So if we do this, then this will definitely please our lamas, and then there is nothing better than this. There is nothing better than this pleasing our lamas, then this to achieve the state of enlightenment. So this is the best accumulations of merits to achieve the state of enlightenment, and this is the best puja to be performed as well, which is pleasing our lamas.
Lava lotion chegua, Tesang Guru chegua, de Kadina Kanawere, that Dili has Lani Kadua, Rumbuchigua, Najingazo, that Tesang Loni, Loyo Yabanangures, and that Tesang Guru chegua, de Kadina Sungure, that de Lami Sumbanashi take Kaduna, that Dil has Zawa Neomare, the Gonza Jango Chambocho, Kadina Pena, Muntineco, Lojum Chiate, Susorangi Saint Doya, Digi Chedore, that Saint Doya Che, the Lojum Jebala. We need to go to the Hibitone say the Dogore, the Mahibaina, then also send the Tuyaki Omarua, send the Tuyaki Omare. That lojo the kitchen was Shadari, and that Gonza Jango Chumbochana, Sunchi, the Naji Mambundon, Uni, Kangaki Paja Hakonurua, or the Gonzacho Kadina kitchen was Songore, Lojo Chiat, Roa.
Yeah. So for lamas a long life, there's nothing better than achieving the words of lamas, or achieving the advice of lama. And the advice of lama is listening, contemplating, and meditating. So there's nothing better than this. So if we achieve the advice or follow the advice of lama, then this is the best things that we can offer for Rinpoche's long life. And His Holiness Lama also mentions that you have to continue to study. You have to study continuously. So the purpose of studying continuously is to tame your mind. So if you study about Dharma and then you understand it, then this is how you tame your mind. If you do not develop any understanding of the Dharma that you study, then it will be very difficult to tame your mind. So therefore, the purpose of we have to continue to study. We have to study continuously. And the purpose of doing so is to tame our mind, to develop understanding in order to tame our mind.
Then also pe tatula pe sanji compagnie dia totuya tendigi suso ino nanji to sumela jogu yorwa. Then also message sanji chuge nganso dolin chiage ndewa message cha de nganso ndewa cha de pinsi jijila nganso melam to jebada ngwa jebaina dan ngwe ne se pin chenbu de yorwa pe chwe de nganso pinsi chamala to se ngwa melam chia ke chenbu shirarwa.
Yep. So I will also dedicate my prayers. I will continue to make prayers for all of us as well. So for any undesirable conditions, like for example, sicknesses or any negative conditions, for adversities, for example, to be ceased immediately. And I also dedicate my prayers for all of us to quickly achieve the state of enlightenment. And since we have Dharma connections, so if we make dedications and if we make dedications and dedicate our prayers to others or to each other especially, then the benefits that we will receive is even greater.
That Samag to the Salon Tiki Terengazo, that Mikanga and that Richipe, Nanso, COVID-19, Nasati Wangi, that me Mambochila Kanda, Lega Major to Sokangi Shibuti, Roa, Lega to Kangi theory. That is so Kangi theory, in a Dangazo, Chedangazo, Lega to Sokanda, Soy, Chet, so Lega Guyore, Soala, Kanda Tinji Guyore, that Telel Hazachi, Nanso Pe, Sarah Jata Mambochila Nanso Pe. Jiwa Samboji Lantoyada, Pasha Samboji, Jiagi, Ganda, Jingi Tola Chanashi, Jingi Tola Chavari Nashi, Masu Misiko, Lega maybe, Ga, the Lega Marabari de Ino, Deparangazo, Chu Lojon de Pe, and Yanli Tesango Yabu Shivi Jia Kogachu. That did Chunzade, Yasusuke, that and that sending Mazo, Susuke Petsoatela, Lega Chumas de Inaya. That Susupe, Jebacheguya, Mes Kanda, Susupe, De Kalaya Kanda, Susuke Kantu Chutupe, that Kanda Sendish, Mambochila Susuke Pay Toyage, Chugi, 냥리 지야 다 로준 지야 고가 총수 무슨 소소 가야 관치 가와 관치로와 보다디 에페 고가 상부지 중요하로와
And because of this pandemic because of this pandemic caused by this COVID-19, so many people face difficulties and challenges in life, and some they lost their job as well. So, and having a job is necessary to earn a living, and because it is one of the conducive conditions as well. So, however, while if someone were to lose their job and they have a lot of time, right? So then they can use this time to study, to practice Dharma as well. So that will bring benefits in the following lifetimes, not only one lifetime, not only two lifetimes. It will bring the benefits in 100 lifetimes. So we should consider ourselves very fortunate, even if we were to lose our job in this pandemic. So this is how we should apply bringing unconducive conditions as our companions. So what it means is this is what it means by bringing unconducive conditions into path or into companions or into assistance. So this is when we should apply it. So if we were to utilize this time when we are free, then we utilize this time to study Dharma and to practice Dharma. Then think about the benefits that we accumulate, and think about the merits, etc., that we accumulate. So we should consider ourselves very fortunate, even if these unconducive conditions happen.
강에 망본 트레어로 다 트레니 망보 요래 소소 벤조토다 강에 망본 트레어데 이나 소소 세남 첨보이 상시고래 세남 첨보이 상시고에 준세 가스나 단다 코비나디 되기 민무 망보 시사르다 민무 망보 시사르 나사 대왕게 무 망보 시사르 취게와 두야 나지 마라바든지 간다 민무 망보 시사르 대시사르 소소 시여 마다 소소 시여 마르 세남디 랍 첨보 디까디다 수수 시어 말은 소아 벤조라 네 간다 강이 템버 tre바이나 수수 시어 말에 최주야게 고가 든지 중요하래 배 항상야게 수수고 선음 첨보다 제왕엄마 거지 비슈지레사 이 상황 당시고다 이 가르스나 배 다소소게 총게 야부 중마서 벤조 야부 중마서게 든지 짱짱 상황 당에 배 현다 조다 간리도 로아 라나 추다 신라 미파다 든지 제바이나 소소 배선은 전부 쉬고지 자디르 간다 시어 말다 시어 말에 소소 배 게잘라 전부 사야게 니버 띵투여다 미탄다 나자 디기 미무마부 시서다 시어 말다 어디 소소 선함 전부 이마 신고다.
Yeah, and because of this pandemic, then many people they face difficulties and financial challenges as well. So, however, we have to know how to think in such situations. So we have to know how to think is even while this financial difficulties appears, we have to consider ourselves very fortunate, very meritorious as well. Why? Because as compared to others, there are many people who lost their lives in this pandemic, 100,000 or many thousands of people lost their life in this pandemic, and not only they lost their life, they lost their opportunity to practice virtue as well. So as compared to them, then we should consider ourselves very fortunate and very meritorious. Why? Because we are not that yet, and we still have the opportunity to practice Dharma, and all these are the kindness of our past lives. So we should think about. This is how we should think about it. So don't just concentrate on how bad things happen on you, how is it the best situations that you are in. So don't just focus on it. Look at others. So there are many others who has greater challenges and who even lost their lives. So if compared to them, then you are very fortunate and you are very meritorious already. So, and you should take this opportunity to practice virtue.
that in this that rima and some more here in Roa.
The continuity Mandala di Pue, the Karina.
You know, and don't you know, did you know in the
Lasso. So,
such Hatura, did you know, such in the degree?
Lasso. The Zijinido. Lasso. Yeah, so since this is the last laureate class, so we offer a Thanksgiving mandala. So then Gisela said, just recite the brief one will do. O je bege jo je me lo
당가서 개정화디 간당한서 데 다 로리 드린주 차도 와이자 먼저 참하게 인형도 돌린 집에 게이자 완들라티니 간다 공사 장고 중부 초기 자질라마 서바른 거치 뜻인지 진짜 담바사쇼 가나 수유바나 그때 띵진진 뒤제바당 제반들이 쇼근데 제바당 다 간다 지템바 제바당 로와데와 다 단다 게이자 완들라티니 지나 안자린들라 마주다 미게라서 봐 많이 받아 인종화시 내발아서 받지다 받도야 다 니안아서 받지다 봐 녀도 도야다 다 신지 망보 집에 니안디 진지다 신지 첼은 대체나 제고 통면서 그 디바바 다니 상지지 공부 녀도 토야 다 녀바 다 냠타 로아 리신지 간디지나 냠타 돌아 간다 로바지니 멤버다 메쇼바다 벤조 토네 로바지니 순다지마나 다 코란서 봐 체리님이 대치 비승 소뱅안에 상지지 공부가 녀도 토야 어디든 리치를 봐 모아지지야 인스로와 상도 스탕루치스.
So we conclude these sessions with dedications. We dedicate the roots of virtue accumulated, especially through through all sessions of studying these texts. May it be the complete cause for Buddha Dharma to flourish to all 10 directions and for all sentient beings to have excellent happiness. We also dedicate these roots of virtue for upholders of Buddha's teachings in the 10 directions, represented by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Kapja Lama Zopa Rinpoche. May they live eons long, and may their enlightened activities and holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously. We also dedicate these roots of virtue for world peace. May happiness prevail the world. May the world be free of wars, conflicts, and disaster caused by the 4 elements. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue for this pandemic to be ceased immediately. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue for sentient beings in general, those who pass away in general, and especially those who pass away in this pandemic. May their negativities accumulated since beginningless time be pacified immediately and quickly achieve the state of enlightenment. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue for those who help others, such as nurses, doctors, those who help others financially, and those patients and those wicked ones, and those who are in poor conditions. So may they live long, free of sickness, and quickly achieve the state of enlightenment.
Doggy Jenny, Sabi Giwan, the Tindandro, Gula Gambena, Chiba, Jizzy, Losandro, by Timbini, Boring Dosage, Chanjo, Senor, and Bojama, Panachi. Nyamba me baya punya punda bewa yu anjambe paye chidan chimba da kendo sambe te ya te ge te da kunje ji so da giwan de da dang je ra do ngo toni tawa rimbo je ma je pana chi yu je che ba nyamba me baya punya kondo bewa yu ni tawa rimbo je ma je pana che ba nyamba me baya punya kondo bewa yu tu zang sha ge nyang ge ja ye den zin jo pe ye kun se do pang de chou sun ku ye li me de 到时候这些电脑下的就当你理解生动就别了，其实上这感觉真正给强了什么，顶着讲到说完的时候，现在人都用几点看点看点嘛里吧，看点就上边有那各种什么，顶着讲到说完的时候，现在人都说看着了一个性感的频道的话，嘛里就有那接的是吧，顶着讲到要对身体报道的就是。Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Geshe-la.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you, Geshe-la. Thank you,
Geshe-la.
Ken.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Ken.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Inshallah.
You have a class on Saturday, yeah?
Geshe-la. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, everyone.
And see you Saturday, Geshe-la.